Welcome to Free Thinking Through the Fourth Turning. My name is Sasha Stone. All the news that's unfit to print. Dear New York Times editorial board, in your haste to make nice with your paying subscribers, I am one too, by the way. You decided to swap out journalistic ethics for fear and hyperbole once again. Trump, you declare, is dangerous and unfit to lead. Now, I know it's been hard on you folks lately with your otherwise reliable audience, turning on you once you spoke truth about Joe Biden. You had to show them that you're still on their side, but in so doing, you failed to make the case for why Trump is unfit and end up looking like Goldilocks who can't decide which bowl of porridge is just right. The one thing we know for sure is that your commitment to destroy Trump remains unshakable. Even a president with dementia or possibly Parkinson's isn't as big of a threat. With a desaturated, billowing United States flag bathed in a sea of darkness, we get three definitive statements. He is dangerous in word, deed, and action. How so? Are you referring to when he said march peacefully and patriotically to the Capitol to have your voices heard? Or the time he and his supporters chanted, lock her up, but then didn't? Or is it his threats to deport immigrants who flooded the border by the millions under Biden's watch? Or was it how he didn't order the military into the streets to quell the protests in the summer of 2020? The fascist you all predicted never emerged. He could have shot them on the spot. He could have called them insurrectionists and terrorists, like all of you did to the Americans on January 6th protesting the 2020 election. Or maybe it's your phantasmagoria around Trump supporters, that they are harassing judges and politicians with death threats. Do you think only people on the left get death threats? Maybe you should try following Ben Shapiro or Tucker Carlson around. Or how about Trump himself, the target of unending fantasy role plays that envision his death? There is a whole section of TikTok that shows a Trump doll people can buy so they can burn, torture, and kill to satisfy their incurable Trump derangement syndrome. Podcast listeners, a video of a TikToker with a Trump doll.
100 comments and I'll burn fat, stupid Donald tonight.
A friend of mine never misses the chance to tell me that if Trump were shot on the street or hanged in the town square, he'd cheer. So tell me, who is more dangerous? You probably never covered the violence against Trump supporters, not just in 2015, but for years after Trump won. Angry leftists felt encouraged by the media's insistence that Trump and his supporters were racists and therefore anything could be done to them, and it didn't matter.
A terrifying night of violence as Donald Trump supporters were attacked by an angry mob waiting for them outside a Trump rally. It happened in San Jose. As the crowd headed home, they were set upon. One young woman tried to take them on, proudly showing off her Trump shirt.
She's egging them on. She's egging them on.
Then it turns scary. She's hit in the face with watermelon and raw eggs.
Oh my God!
She finds herself all alone and cornered. The crowd screaming obscenities, and no one came to her aid, not even the cops. Someone get her in! Finally, she gets back inside and finds sanctuary.
I was so scared watching this video, afraid for what was going to happen next to this young lady. And why were the police officers holding the doors and not grabbing her and pulling her inside?
Headlines this morning say people leaving the rally were hunted and chased down like prey. Watch as this young man runs for his life. He's caught and knocked down. Look at the fear in his face as he attempts to flee.
Another fistfight's about to break out right now. The Trump supporter is getting pummeled right now.
This guy's Build the Wall t-shirt was ripped off his back. Then he's knocked and punched by 6 men.
Run! Get the hell out of here!
That's a reporter you hear, telling him to flee.
7 more people just come in, start punching me. Carl, I look pretty bad.
The mob even followed the Trump supporters to their cars. Inside a parking garage, the assaults continued. An SUV was rocked and...
Don't you think it's a big story that there was this level of political violence leading up to the election to threaten and intimidate voters? Or how about the violence on Inauguration Day?
Police responded with tear gas to small groups of protesters who damaged property and threw objects at them. Dozens of protesters clad in black and wearing face masks and helmets prepared themselves for confrontations with the police at a city park in the morning. The violent activists represented a small part of the mostly peaceful demonstrators who gathered in local parks with their placards and marched through the streets.
Racist, sexist, homophobe, Donald Trump has got to go!
One top target, Trump's proposal to stop unlawful border crossings from Mexico by deporting the undocumented and building a wall along the border. By contrast, the thousands of Trump supporters who came to Washington for the inauguration strongly support such ideas. Willie and Esperanza Ramirez from Houston, Texas, differ from most Hispanics on this issue.
Why is it okay just to open the borders, let anybody come in? That's not right. And just because we're Latinos doesn't mean we agree with that.
The divide over such issues is so deep that many protesters prefer to avoid dialogue with Trump supporters.
I don't really think it's worthwhile to engage with or try to convince them or try to make compromises with because their values are so diametrically opposed to mine.
One prominent
violence against Trump supporters is so casually accepted and went on for years, from spitting on them to knocking hats off their heads to banning them from restaurants. If you're looking for Germany in the 1930s, and all of you are all of the time, look no further than right in the mirror. The reason we still need a full investigation of January 6th is that I know what you and everyone else on the left do not. MAGA is not violent. They mock the left for being the violent side, which is why so many of us smelled a rat on January 6th as we watched events unfold that were out of character for the Trump movement. Or I should say the one that exists in reality, not the one splashed all over the pages of the New York Times. The second reason you state Trump is unfit? He puts self over country. He puts self over country in a race that has cost him dearly, both financially and personally. He was impeached twice, indicted 4 times, and is home raided by the FBI, with fanatical prosecutors still hoping to bankrupt him and destroy everything he ever built, and he's still standing strong and optimistic as ever. Here's Dana White.
Donald Trump has been an incredible fucking friend to me for 20 years. When people try to shit on him and put all this false information out there about the guy, look at what he's going through right now, right? He's running into a new election. They're trying to fucking bury him financially. All these things that they're doing to him. Easter Sunday, he fucking calls me and says, just want to say happy Easter to you and your family. Easter Sunday, he calls me and wishes me a happy Eater. You know what I mean? For this guy to, when me and my wife went through what we went through, he called me 3 times a week for 2 weeks, making sure I was okay and making sure she was okay. You know, how the kids, that's who Donald Trump is.
You and every other outlet in the country have been trying to paint Trump as the ultimate villain, an existential threat, the worst human being who ever lived. The truth? Trump is a hero to a lot of people in this country. It's just that those people do not matter to you. When Trump visited East Palestine, Ohio, your reporters covered it only as a self-serving event. This story, quote, East Palestine, Ohio, it was evocative of the former president's time in office. An at times meandering address punctuated by self-promotion, his brand name, Trump Water, and an undercurrent of grievance, end quote. So it's no wonder you think he only serves himself. You would never have bothered to see the event through the eyes of his supporters, how much it meant to them that he showed up on a cold, muddy day with sirens blazing in a motorcade and hung out with people abandoned and forgotten in their polluted town. Here is a different view of what happened in East Palestine.
Trump's coming, but Biden hasn't.
Man of the people.
Trump! We want Trump! We want Trump!
President Trump just arriving in East Palestine, Ohio, as the town continues to reel from the massive train derailment.
To the people of East Palestine and to the nearby communities in Ohio and Pennsylvania, we have told you loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. Honor to meet you, sir. Mr. Trump, what do you make about Biden not showing up? You showing up before he did.
Thank you so much for coming.
Get him out of here. Thank you so much. Hey, Trump, take a picture of my phone. Picture? There he is. He's dark. The real president. Sign it. Thank you so much. Hey, Trump, take a picture of my phone. Picture? There he is.
The third reason Trump is unfit to serve, according to you, is that he loathes the laws we live by. And what laws would those be? The law that allowed Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and the FBI to spy on the Trump campaign in 2015? To paint him as a Russian spy? That law didn't exist, but they did it anyway. Does it all get back to the 2020 election and how we were all supposed to say nothing about what we saw all of you do? We watched your struggle session to suppress the violence in the summer of 2020. We watched you all lie about the Hunter Biden laptop. The laws were changed to better suit the Democrats' new scheme to use $1 billion in dark money to collect ballots from voters who were not motivated to get up, walk outside, and mail their ballots. And now you're all paying the price for that grand deception. Had you listened to those who protested the election, you might have heard them say that there was something wrong with Joe Biden, even back then. And finally, you write, quote, "Next week, for the third time in 8 years, Donald Trump will be nominated as the Republican Party's candidate for President of the United States. A once great political party now serves the interests of one man, a man as demonstrably unsuited for the office of president as any to run in the long history of the Republic, a man whose values, temperament, ideas, and language are directly opposed to so much of what has made this country great," end quote. I think the hyperbole diarrhea would sound more impressive if I didn't come from your world. I know the game. I know how big words like demonstrably unsuited sound so important, but don't really mean anything because they are, to quote the Big Lebowski, just like your opinion, man. I've heard the 34 felonies as though it means anything, or the defamation case distorted to look like a rape conviction. But at least here we get a glimpse of what you really mean when you call Trump dangerous. You mean he's a guy who says whatever he wants to say, and that makes you nervous. It really comes down to that, doesn't it? Something Trump said. And finally, I spit out my coffee when I read this. Quote, "The Republican Party once pursued electoral power in service of solutions for such problems to building the shiny city on a hill, as Ronald Reagan liked to say. Its vision of the United States, embodied in principal public servants like George H.W. Bush, John McCain, and Mitt Romney, was rooted in the values of freedom, sacrifice, individual responsibility, and the common good. The party's conception of those values was reflected in its long-standing conservative policy agenda, and today many Republicans set aside their concerns about Mr. Trump because of his positions on immigration, trade, and taxes. But the stakes of this election are not fundamentally about policy disagreements. The stakes are more foundational. What qualities matter most in America's president and commander-in-chief," end quote. You can sell this revisionist swill to your readers if you like, but I lived through all of it. I remember how we all thought Ronald Reagan was the devil incarnate. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney were the greatest evil the world had ever known until, Trump beat Hillary Clinton. We now live in a very different time than in all of human history. We have millions of voices being heard at once. It's not easy for the legacy press to keep up. But you'd have to imagine what other election years might have been like in such a time. Imagine the hive mind on X in the Reagan era, or YouTube and TikTok in the H.W. Bush era, or in the Nixon era. Social media, TikTok, YouTube, podcasts, and independent press have all changed the game. The New York Times, like so much of the left, has not caught up with this fast-changing landscape and seems hell-bent on wrestling the narrative to the ground. But by now, you've manufactured your own version of reality. There's just one problem. It doesn't fit with actual reality. It serves the members of the royal court to say Trump is unfit. But if you really want people to take you seriously, you'll have to be more specific. You don't understand why so many voters need the one guy in the country, maybe the world, who could withstand the attacks thrown at him by this massive power alliance on the left. You want a normal Republican because you can destroy them, but not Trump. You've convinced yourselves that they are all angry white men that support him, but you're wrong. Every kind of person, especially those who struggle in life, appreciates what a fighter Trump is.
You know who we voting for? We voting Donald Trump, baby. Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving. America needs saving. We voting Trump, baby. Trump, baby. No swerving in the Trump truck. Republican 4G, Antifa knows what's up. Red, white, and blue, MAGA nation, throw it up. Black, white, and brown, all about a Trump. Democrat Party gon' take your freedom. Indicting our president cause they can't beat us. It's a two-tier justice system. Put America first, we the victims. FJB, 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 FJB. Let's go brand this cigarette. We voting Donald Trump, baby. Donald Trump, baby. America needs saving. America needs saving. We voting Trump, Trump, baby. Trump, Trump, baby.
No. Trump Latinos, man, you know, we out here helping the community. We survived the hurricane. And, you know, we trying to help out the community. The hood's for Trump. You already know it. So,
feel like blessing this man.
Feel like blessing somebody today.
Because y'all blessing us, supporting us on iTunes. Number 6, we're trying to go number 1. There you go, man. Thank you, good bro.
I love when people tell me I'm in the MAGA cult. The MAGA cult. First of all, I don't even know what the MAGA cult is, man. I just like to be able to afford food and gas and get to work and have a job. If that's the MAGA cult, then I guess I'm in the MAGA cult. I guess what you mean is, do I support Donald Trump? The answer to that would be unequivocally, yes, I do. See, that's the one thing y'all can't do. You can't take away our memories, man. We remember. We know what it was like before Joe Biden took office. That freaking meat sock. He's not worth freaking... He's more useless than freaking foreskin. Let's break this down anyway. You say MAGA like it's a bad thing. It literally means make America great again. Now, unless you're a communist, I would say you probably should agree with that. And then you guys just like to, you know, sauce it up a little bit by saying cult.
But more than anything, Trump offers hope at a time when no one in any position of power can or will. All you folks do is sell fear. After almost 10 years of it, it's time to turn the page. There is a yearning for a time when we can all let our hair down and relax. Trump shows up and does his dance, plays music, and shows everyone a good time. Tell me, when was the last time Democrats did that? They spend every minute at the microphone saying how great America could be. If only we could get rid of all of those millions of people over there. That's no way to lead a country. Tomorrow, July 13th, Trump will return again to Butler, Pennsylvania, drawing the kinds of crowds poor old Joe Biden wishes he could manifest. Butler is the town featured in this viral Tucker Carlson video. No one has ever explained the Trump movement better.
The picture is from a town called Butler, Pennsylvania. It's 35 miles north of Pittsburgh. The president held a rally there over the weekend. Butler's like a lot of places you'll find in this country once you head inland from the coasts. It's a former industrial town. They made Pullman rail cars there for many years. But it's been losing population for decades. There's still a lot of nice people in Butler. For 60 grand, you can buy a decent house there. It's a place you might be happy in. But our professional class is not impressed by Butler. They don't consider Butler, Pennsylvania, or places like it, the future. To them, places like Butler are embarrassing relics of a past best forgotten. The men of Butler may have built this country, and they did, but they mean nothing to our leaders now. You can be certain of that because when large numbers of people in Butler started killing themselves with narcotics, no one in Washington or New York or Los Angeles said a word about it. And so it continued. There have now been so many opioid deaths in Butler that a few years ago, residents built an overdose memorial in the middle of town. MSNBC didn't cover that. So given all of that, it was interesting how the people around Butler feel about Donald Trump. Here are the pictures of the president's rally there on Saturday night. Tens of thousands of people came. So many people that the crowd obscured the horizon. It looked like a visit from the Pope. When was the last time a political speech drew that many people? Well, the media didn't ask. Instead, they attacked the rally as a super spreader event. Trump endangers thousands in Pennsylvania. Okay, we'll leave the epidemiology to CNN. But the question still hung in the air. Why did all those people come? Why? They must have known that Donald Trump is the most evil man who's ever lived. They've heard that every day for 5 years. They know that people who support Donald Trump are also evil. They're bigots, they're morons, they're racist cult members. They know that Americans have been fired from their jobs for supporting Donald Trump. Not to mention kicked off social media, belittled by their kids' teachers, shunned by decent society. Only losers and freaks support Donald Trump. People in Butler knew all of that. But on Saturday, they went to the Donald Trump rally anyway. Why exactly did they do that? We should be pondering that question deeply as we watch tomorrow's returns and as we live through the aftermath of them. Millions of Americans sincerely love Donald Trump. They love him in spite of everything they've heard. They love him often in spite of himself. They're not deluded. They know exactly who Trump is. They love him anyway. They love Donald Trump because no one else loves them. The country they built, the country their ancestors fought for over hundreds of years, has left them to die in their unfashionable little towns, mocked and despised by the sneering half-wits with finance degrees but no actual skills who seem to run everything all of a sudden. Whatever Donald Trump's faults, he is better than the rest of the people in charge. At least he doesn't hate them for their weakness. Donald Trump, in other words, is and has always been a living indictment of the people who run this country. That was true 4 years ago when Trump came out of nowhere to win the presidency, and it's every bit as true right now. It may be even more true than it's ever been, and it will remain true regardless of whether Donald Trump wins re-election. Trump rose because they failed. It's as simple as that. If the people in charge had done a halfway decent job with the country they inherited, if they'd cared about anything other than themselves, even for just a moment, Donald Trump would still be hosting Celebrity Apprentice. But they didn't. Instead, they were incompetent and narcissistic and cruel and relentlessly dishonest. They wrecked what they didn't build. They lied about it. They hurt anyone who told the truth about what they were doing. That's true. We watched. America is still a great country, the best in the world, but our ruling class is disgusting. A vote for Trump is a vote against them. That's what's going on in that picture. That's what's going on in this country.
Trump rose because you failed, and that's all the news that's fit to print. Thank you for listening to my podcast, sashastone.substack.com. And remember, to thine own self be true.
Virgil Cain is the name, and I served on the Danville train till Stoneman's cavalry came and tore up the tracks again. In the winter of '65, we were hungry, just barely alive. By May the 10th, Richmond it fell. It's a time I remember so well. The night they drove old Dixie down, the bells were ringing. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went na 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 na. Back with my wife in Tennessee, when one day she called to me, Virgil, quick, come see, there goes Robert E. Lee. Now I don't mind chopping wood, and I don't care if the money's no good. You take what you need and you leave the rest. They should have never have taken the very best. The night they drove old Dixie down, bells were ringing. The night they drove old Dixie down, and all the people were singing. They went na 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 na. Like my father before me, I will work the land. And like my brother above me, he took a rebel stand. He was just 18, proud and brave, when
Thank you guys so much. We're Carolina's story.